Okay, first of all, on behalf of the entire city of Cincinnati government family, Mayor's Office, City Manager, City Council, and our Parks Commission, we send our condolences to the Carr family. This is a very tragic situation, and we send our condolences and prayers to Ms. Carr's family. What I'd like to do is just briefly go over what we believe happened, and we'll respond to any questions that you might have. And assisting me from a technical perspective will be Jim Burkhart, who is with our Parks Commission. Apparently, what occurred is Ms. Carr was driving down the street, and a tree literally fell and struck her car. What we know right now, and clearly we are looking into the matter, we'll be investigating it, and we will share whatever findings we come up with. But preliminarily speaking, what it looks like is we have a very mature urban forestry program for the city. And as part of that, we basically do a 6-year assessment of all of the city-owned trees. And what that tells us is the condition of each tree. And we generally place the trees in one of two categories, or three categories. Obviously, the first category is tree is healthy. We'll see it in another 6 years for its 6-year checkup, basically. However, there are two other categories. One would be, our parks experts as it relates to trees will assess the tree, looking at it from top to bottom, and based on certain factors, we'll place it in one of two categories. It should be taken down immediately, or it should be placed in the city's annual tree maintenance program to be taken down at some time or at some point in the future. This tree was looked at in July of 2014, pursuant to that 6-year cycle, which is in essence like an annual checkup, but a 6-year checkup. It was deemed to be somewhat in decline, however, not in decline to the point where it needed to be taken down immediately. So it's placed in the second category to be placed within the tree maintenance and removal program, which means that cyclically it would be gotten to by one of our contractors and taken down. It did not show any signs of immediate need for attention, which we would have utilized one of our outside contractors to immediately take it down, which is what we do on a regular basis. In this case, the tree just displayed marginal decline and was placed in the second category. However, something happened this weekend. Could be weather related, a lot of moisture in the air. And then if you look at the photos that we provided, the tree did not demonstrate to us that it proposed an imminent danger or threat. Looking at the tree trunk, which looked pretty healthy, if you look at the upper right-hand corner of the crown of the tree, there's some slight decline or dead branches, but not to the point to warrant an immediate concern to take it down. But again, the tree came down, and we've lost the life of one of our very valuable citizens, and we have initiated an immediate investigation of the situation, and as we find out more details, it will be our intent to share those with the public. But that's where we are right now.
So it would never be about staffing. You're saying this is really just the categories placed in. Not a whole lot more could have been done. It sounds like what you're saying.
Again, Cincinnati is one of barely a handful of cities that actually has a short assessment process, and that every 6-year assessment of all of our trees. Typically, in the industry and other municipalities, it's 8 years, 10 years, but we have a very short cycle time in terms of doing this sort of periodic checkup. And based on our experts who do that fulfill this kind of work, the tree did not demonstrate any traits that would put it in that immediate harm category, which would have had it taken care of immediately. We currently have 4 contractors on board that we use. We're talking about, we take down about 1,000 trees a year. So we have a very, very robust program assessing these trees, their health. If they pose any sort of potential harm to the community, they go into one of these 2 categories. Or they're left alone because they're healthy, they're showing no signs whatsoever of decline or imminent potential harm to the public. If they make it into one of those other 2 categories, again, once a tree is deemed to be in something greater than decline, it's immediately taken down. In this case, again, it did not exhibit any traits that would have allowed, or any traits that would have told staff, well, perhaps we should put it into that imminent danger category.
And you just explained it, but I guess the key question that a lot of people had on scene yesterday, they knew that it had been marked. and so it sounds like what you're saying, because it was marked, did not mean that it would come down immediately. Right, right. It was marked for a couple of reasons. We recently did a resolicitation for, in essence, we have 2 categories of contractors that supports the Parks Commission as it relates to trees. We have 2 emergency contracts that we have in place, and they are on call at any given time. That's for that emergency category when we deem a tree to be at a point of being beyond decline and could pose a threat to the public. Those 2 contracts are used expressly to deal with those kinds of situations immediately. We just resolicited for contractors that would take care of trees in the other category. So as a part of that, the parks staff would mark the trees with an X so that any interested vendor could go out into all 10 communities or 10 quadrants where we sort of how we organize ourselves around this tree activity and better understand what the scope of work is going to be. So it's really for them to be able to get a better understanding as to the nature and types of trees and the locations. So the X is a marker to help them out in terms of responding to the procurement. And that was put, any idea when that was put on?
I believe it was July 2014.
Oh, the X was put on?
July of 2014.
So is the investigation associated with, did our experts make the right call here?
We're going to look at every single element associated with this tree. Obviously, we'll do a site assessment. We've got plenty of photos, as we've shared with you. The experts will, you know, I have here with me is Jim Burkhart, and perhaps, Jim, you could maybe shed some light on that question?
Well, yes, the investigation is
Why don't you tell them your title and what you do?
Jim Burkhart, Superintendent of Operations and Land Management for the Cincinnati Park Board. Okay. And, yeah, the investigation is ongoing. We were there last night after the tree blew over, and were able to look at it up close and personal. The lower part of the trunk and the root system was removed, and we have that back at our Reading Road office right now to follow up on the investigation.
But again, you know, when his folks go out and they do their 6-year assessment, you know, you looked at the top of the tree, which is generally a really clear indicator as to the overall health of the tree. It was just one little quadrant that looked like it was in decline. The tree trunk looked very healthy. So what a contributing factor to this tree falling over is below ground, and their assessment would not have picked up something like that because it's all visual right there.
Did part of it have to do with rain, weather?
It could very well. I mean, it's been a very wet past several days, and that could be one of the causal factors. But again, Jim and his people, they'll do their investigation. They're experts in the area. They'll know what to look for and how to assess the situation.
So, I was just going to ask Jim, realistically, when would the tree been taken down, under
Normal circumstances.
normal circumstances? What do you think?
Well, the contract is just about ready, and so within the next month or two from now.
Do you have any kind of ballpark numbers of how many trees you have in this assessment program?
85,000. That's 85,000 trees on 1,000 miles of streets.
A lot of people are probably going to talk to one woman and say she was now starting to fear the trees around her, and you might start to get more calls. Do you encourage people to, because people make their own assessments, that looks like that tree is going bad. What should a person do if they think that there's a bad tree on them?
They should absolutely call the Urban Forestry Office. We very much encourage that. When you talk about 85,000 trees, I've got 7 people that oversee that. It's a little hard for 7 people to oversee 85,000 trees every day. The people that live there, live near the trees, they know them better than we do a lot of the times. So if they have a concern, call us, we'll come out, we'll take a look, and we'll see what needs to be done.
And that happens every day.
Mm-hmm.
That happens every day. We receive calls on a regular basis, and the process is that someone is sent out to assess the tree, and if the tree truly needs to come down, we use one of those emergency contracts to immediately take it down. But as Jim said, we do encourage folks to let us know if there's a tree in the neighborhood that looks a little shaky, and we would not hesitate to go out and take a look at it.
A couple of people in the neighborhood were saying there were several trees that were marked with a yellow X, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they need to be taken down. It means
Right.
that they're part of this program, that they're being looked at.
That's
Is
it.
that fair?
Correct.
And that they will ultimately be scheduled to either be pruned in a very significant way or taken down.
What is your level of concern, and want to be sensitive here because a life is lost, but what about the liability of the city here?
I really can't answer that. I mean, our law department would address anything related to any legal implications with a situation like this or any other situation.
But the investigation will somewhat be a factor in determining that liability.
Well, in the event that the city has ever receives a claim on something like this, it triggers a process. But we would do the investigation regardless, because we want to know exactly what went wrong. We want to assess the physical, environmental conditions, and we also want to make sure that our processes and our procedures are what they need to be.
Who exactly conducts that investigation? Is it an independent entity or?
It's internal.
agency?
It's internal investigation.
So is it the actual urban forestry
Yeah,
division? Is that
yeah,
your
yeah. They're the experts. They are the experts, so we would rely on them to do that.
Is there a concern, I know we were talking just about the weather, how it could be weather related with how moist the soil was. I mean, it seemed like, it's just a freak accident that this would happen. Obviously, it's rare, but are you concerned that with the rain we've had, that this could happen again or again in the future?
Again, we're talking about nature, and it's a powerful thing. And I don't even want to suggest that we have control over it. The key is, what we have in place is we have a 6-year rolling assessment process and program for all 85,000 of these trees. We're looking at them individually from top to bottom, and we are assessing them, and we are categorizing them. And those that fit into that imminent category are taken down immediately. Those that look like they're in somewhat decline, they're placed in this maintenance program, which means that we'll either generate some level of significant pruning, or we will take the tree down in total. That's pretty much all we can do. And rely on and encourage citizens, if they've got concerns about a particular tree in their neighborhood, call us. And we would enthusiastically go out, take a look at it, and if it needs to be taken care of, we would do that as well.
What number would you put on the screen or a website that would be the best number to report if the property tree?
We'll get that to you. I don't have it right off the top of my head, but we'll get that number to you.
And my final question accident. I don't know if you knew Jackie Carr, but I was telling you, a longtime school teacher, and, real involved, well-known. I mean, probably when you heard just bits and pieces, not even thinking liability investigation, I mean, what you hear this story and you think, wow.
It's loss of life. I mean, loss of life is what it is. I mean, it's always unforeseen loss of life, that is, because we're all going to die at some point. But unforeseen, unexpected loss of life is always alarming. We're never ready for it, particularly in terms of what I'm hearing about this lady. Is a very, very involved community person. So we're not only losing the life of someone, but we're losing a very active person in the community. And there's really not much we can say. It's the loss of a very important life. And based on how I've been hearing about how she lived her life, it just sort of serves as another example to us all in terms of how we might live our lives. Living each day to the fullest, because we know not how many days we have.
Thank you.
Okay.